How I built a modular gaming board, part 5, the river tiles. Now these were fantastic fun to make. These river tiles really make the board, I think they make it pretty special. I've made some different types so that there's lots of variety in how it's laid out. I'm not going to be showing the waterfall in this video, but I'm going to be showing exactly how I made these exact river tiles that you are seeing here. In terms of how you do it, well, hopefully if you're doing this, then you may have watched part 1 and you're going to have some tiles look something like this. If not, then this is what they look like. They have the same opening at each end so that they can all join up however you want them to join up. So to start with, I just took a knife and just took the edge off of the kind of top of it because I wanted it to be more rounded and less sharp, because I want it to be a muddy bank on the river rather than like a cliff edge, which I've done on previous ones. Now, once that was done on all of them, I then proceeded to add some more detail to them. So this started by adding some dark blue paint, and this was painted right across the middle of every single tile. This is the idea of this is to try and add the idea of depth to the tiles. So once I'd done that, I then took some light grey paint and then painted all along the edges, being careful not to touch the blue as much as possible. And you'll see why in just a second. But I went across every single tile, just painting this grey up to the edges, not minding if it went on to the bank. After that, I then took the very same brush, and whilst the paint was still wet on both the blue and the grey, it just stippled the brush up and down, as you can see me doing here, which really blended it together so that the grey and the blue formed a nice kind of the idea of a gradient of the water perhaps kind of getting deeper. And that ended up looking a little something like this. Obviously the paint is still wet here, but you can see how the paint is beginning to blend. And if you want, that's, you could call that good enough. I mean, it's important that, those are going to get covered there. So if you didn't get right up to the edge, it's fine. If there's any parts in the middle that are missing paint, then you do want to make sure you get them. After that, I took my favorite blend of PVA glue, paint and sand, and a horrible old brush, and what you can see me doing here is stippling this into the riverbank. Stippling it means that the sand will come off and stick to the bank, whereas if you were to brush it on, then what happens is that it simply just gets moved around. We want to be adding texture. Next up was the bottom of the river, and for this, well, kind of the edges of the river, I guess. For this, I took some gritty sand and mixed it with some grey paint, and then from here, I just, when it's like less gritty, when it's more gritty, it's difficult to sprinkle. So I tried to sprinkle it, doesn't really work. Essentially, you end up just kind of pushing it into the sides like I did here. So it's just a case of getting a bit and chucking on. That glue you can see down there is just standard PVA glue. I think it was watered down ever so slightly. And the thing is, because what's going to happen with it, it doesn't have to be kind of really solidly held in place. You want to be mostly held in place, but no, it doesn't have to be absolutely solid. After that, I took this very fine grey sand and I sprinkled that off on top so that there was kind of a nice difference. And I think you can see the difference that's made already. After that, I found some, this is on a different tile, I found some nice chunky rocks. So I wanted this tile here to be a little bit like a little bit different, because I think you want some variety. So I've got two corner pieces. I mean, you could have them being exactly the same. I wanted mine to be different. So what I did with this one is absolutely covered the whole bottom of it with this PVA thing, and then went to town just chucking down loads and loads of this kind of same gritty sand, and then followed that up, as you'll see in a second, by adding some of the finer stuff as well. And that ended up looking, I think it ended up looking right. I mean, with the amount that I put down, I then went back over it. That isn't de-icer, by the way. That is watered down PVA glue. And rather than trying to brush it on top, I sprayed it on top with this spray bottle. And then from there, given that that's kind of absolutely soaked in glue, I was just able to push these stones down and into that mix so that they were held in place from there. And this is what the tiles look like. Went through all of them, and you can see what the bottoms of them look like. So you've got one or two that have got a little bit more at the bottom of them, and you've got more other ones which suggest that the center of them is deeper. From there, they needed to be flocked. So this is a mix of three different flocks, exactly the same ones as I've used on the other boards, the other tiles, if you watch them. And I'm just sprinkling this over. I would suggest that you aim if you're doing it from a bag, or even if you're doing it with a spoon or whatever, just aim it away from the river so you get as little in there as possible. If you get a bit in, it's not the end of the world, but I tend to kind of aim it away and then just use my fingers to get it up to the edges. And this is what they ended up looking like. So here we have the next stage of the process. This is going to be the actual resin pour. Now this is really, really important to get right, and it's really important. Well, you know, you can be as slapdash and reckless as you want, but I suggest being really cautious about this. So to begin with, I put 3 different strips of masking tape kind of overlapping each other, and that's what I thought would be enough, but eventually I decided on doing it a little bit differently. I mean, I even added some silicone in here as well, but eventually what I decided that would be a lot better to just be extra cautious. And you can see on the left-hand one here, there's a little bit of, actually on both of them, there's a bit of wood sticking up. So what I did was I actually took some thin MDF, I glued it to the masking tape, and then I glued it at the bottom with a glue gun, and that was all kind of stuck really solidly in place. So that is kind of triply secure. And there you see the resin. So the resin that there's a link in the description for buying the exact resin that I used. I bought absolutely clear resin, and I decided I was going to pour it really deep. You don't have to pour it as deep as I did. I just decided I was going to go all out, spend a lot of money and make it nice and deep. Now, you would not believe how little paint you have to add to make this blue. I I just added maybe 8 or 10 drops or something like that into this mix in order to make it blue. Mix it up, follow the instructions, and then I just went for it. And just tip the bunch in, don't let it drip from your stick onto the side like I just did there. And once I poured a bit in, it is self-leveling, so it should, you know, self-level and come to a nice point of levelness. So I just took my time with this and just saw where it went, and yeah, just added more into areas that I thought it wasn't getting what it needed. And then what you can do is, using a stick, you can just start to move it around. So I noticed that it wasn't quite in a few places over here up to the edge, so I wanted to just move it around. And this is what it ended up looking like, and you can see here that bubbles start to come up. Now this is going to be especially the case if you've got lots of kind of ballast stuff at the bottom. The bubbles kind of pop out, and most of them will just kind of sort themselves out. If there's a bubble that isn't sorting itself out, then you can just poke it with a lolly stick. I then realised that the masking tape on one side was starting to sag a little bit, so I just jammed a bit of MDF in here just so that rather than having it was never going to leak, but it meant that the edge was going to be a little bit kind of saggy, which is not what we want. And I'm going to show you, this is going to repeat a couple of times, but these are the other tiles that have had the resin poured on them. I think they're looking great. And like at any one of these points, you could stop. But you know, with good enough scenery, what happens is you do it until you feel like it's good enough for what you're looking for. So here, with all of the flock done, we wanted to do the final piece of the river, which is to add the water texture, but we needed to make sure that all of the flock was stuck down first. So I've sprayed it with some watered down PVA and some isopropyl alcohol, and then I've just cleaned off the river. So it's all ready to go. Now this is Vallejo's water effect, and it goes on like PVA glue essentially. So you just, to start with, I've used a fan brush here just to completely cover it, and then once it's completely covered, I've then switched down to a smaller brush. And what happens here is that you just kind of stipple it. Now it will dry almost completely clear. If you leave it thicker in some places, then it will clear. It will dry more like it's like a whiter, but not completely white. So with every single tile, and I'm going to go through all of these, with every single tile, what I did was I just thought about how the water would flow through it. And essentially just kind of stippling in places and dragging in places and just getting a feel for what the water would be doing. So this one's a fairly simple one, so I just kind of stippled it mostly, and kind of, I noticed that at times the brush felt like it was creating this exactly the same shape everywhere, so I kind of twisted it around in my hands a little bit, so I've got kind of different angles on it. And what you'll see is that when I hold it up to the camera in a second, you can see what it kind of looks like, but that will dry almost completely clear, but it will have a nice effect on it. With the next one, Just again covered it over completely, and then I really started to think about what would happen at this position here. So I felt like there would be a lot slower water here, so just being gentle with it and almost trying to pull some of the stuff away. And then with other positions where the water's coming around that corner, I started to really try and pull it away, as the water would be kind of pushed out, and almost like a ridge would be forming, almost parallel to how the river was running. So, I mean, you don't have to think about it as much as I have. I just kind of went into detail in my head and thought about how the water would be flowing, how the river would be running. And you can see me actually in this moment just seeing, what would the water be doing exactly here? So that's what I did with this particular one. And the next one is the the one with the island in the middle. So started as normal with just kind of starting to stipple it. And I started to think that, okay, I'm going to have the river running kind of towards the camera from this point of view. So I mean, obviously it doesn't really matter. You can have it either way. But I thought, if the water was running towards that point, what would it do? So it would come in and then it would start to push out towards the sides. So that's exactly what I've done here. So stippling it just kind of normally at the start, and then as it comes up to that point in the center, just kind of moving it around to the side. If the river was flowing that way, then at the back of that, there would be pretty still water rather than really flowing water. So again, I've just been gentle and try to push it away. Now, if you do get some on the riverbanks, as you can see I've done in places here, because it dries clear, it doesn't actually matter too much, and it almost looks like there's some water splashed up onto it, but you know, it's not the sort of thing you're going to particularly notice, if I'm completely honest. And then you can see what that begins to look like. So that is going to dry clear, but that is what it looked like. And then the final one I'm showing you here is the corner tile here. This is the one we chucked loads of stuff down on. So around this corner here, just being a bit more gentle with it. And now in this kind of crook or nook or whatever this is over here, I thought there'd be very, very still water, because the water wouldn't be flowing through that point. So I just tried to be kind of gentle with that and not have big peaks. But towards the center of it, I was really trying to push the water to be higher into a kind of ridge, as you can see here, because I thought that the water would kind of gather more, and that's what you can see I've done at this point. And that is the tiles completely finished. And here you can see what they look like when they're all together. I think they look absolutely incredible. Really, really, I mean, the water effect is fantastic. You can see how they all join together. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed making them. So I really hope you've enjoyed watching this. Hope you make some yourself. Check out the waterfall video, which will be out soon. So subscribe if you're interested in that. Please like the video and leave any comments that you have. Thanks very much for watching.